Anin. Alfred Dumont Indigenicaz. Bedaben Megisi, Anishinaabe ni Wintz. Wabasheshki and Dodum. Shanaga and Dujniba. Coquetlam and Dea Nungum. Anishinaabe Gichi. BCIT Aboriginal Services. It's good as a Anishinaabe Inini to stand on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. The Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish. As an Anishinaabe person, when you walk into someone else's territory, you ask for permission to come and to speak. So it's good that this permission has been given to us by the elders of this land. You are today doing a workshop on diversity. One of the teachings that we have when we go into any lodge or any home is to walk in humbly and to remember that we are invited by Spirit. When we enter the Sweat Lodge, we don't come in walking. We come in on our hands and knees. We come in humbly, recognizing that we are just a small part of creation. You can come and sit down. You don't have to stand up. This is not formal. You can crawl on your hands and knees if you wish, if you want to move the table that way. When we come into the lodge, we do what I just did, except maybe in a shorter version. You say your name. You say who you are because you want people to recognize you for who you are, and you also carry a name, and a name has meaning and power. It also has responsibility. It has many teachings in it. You also say, Gakina Awaya, all my relations. You are related to everything, and everything is related to you. All living things. And for we in First Nations community, all living things means everything. We are responsible for creation. Creation is responsible for us. So we say thank you to the Creator when we enter the lodge. We say our name so that we may be recognized. And we recognize the teaching that we are all related. But we come with that thanksgiving when we enter from the eastern door for those of us in the Anishinaabe community, because we recognize in the eastern door there are the teachings of all new things. The sun rises in the east, and we recognize all good things and all teachings come from the eastern door. We recognize also that when we look to the southern door, we recognize our relationships with all people. We first of all recognize our mothers and fathers, our aunts and uncles, our grandmothers and grandfathers, both here in this world and in spirit world, and that they are there to guide us across the floor of the lodge as we go through life. So we recognize them and honor them. But we also recognize when we say Gakina Awaya that we are related to all living beings. So when the grandfathers or grandmothers, those heated rocks, are brought into the lodge, we recognize their spirits come in and we are related to them as well. Rocks for us carry teachings that are older than time. And we are aware when we are in the lodge that we are praying for everything, because it's a spiritual place, and all of life is spiritual for us. We also acknowledge the western door. The western door is the door into spirit world. It's the nighttime. And for Anishinaabe, we only do ceremonies, sacred ceremonies, late into the night because that's spirit time. And we recognize the spirit. So spirit is all a part of all the things we do in life. And we acknowledge the northern door. The northern door is the door of the elders, those who have taught us and will continue to teach us both in this world and those who have gone on to the next world, the next part of their journey. These are all part of our relations. And we acknowledge then Mother Earth, the earth that we walk on, the earth we crawl on, the earth that the grandmothers and grandfathers have been set into in the lodge. Because Mother Earth provides all we need. But we need to remind ourselves that we need to care for the earth as the earth cares for us. That's what Kakina Awaya means. It means we are related, and therefore, as a relationship, we care for our mother. And that's one of the teachings we seem to have lost in this Western society, and we need to somehow find a way of bringing that back, especially in an institute like this, where we study mechanical things, where we study theory, but we forget relationship. So we need to find a way of building relationship into our teaching. That's part of what Anishinaabe or part of what First Nations people bring. And we also acknowledge the Creator. The Creator, because we see all things as spiritual. Nothing for us is not spiritual. So we have to find that part within our teachings as well. And that's one of the challenging things we have as teachers in institutions like this. And then we bring all of those things into the heart center. That's the 7 directions. So there are teachings there, and as my brother keeps reminding me, there are always teachings inside teachings. And inside those teachings are other teachings, and inside those teachings are more teachings. So when you look at the 4 directions and the 7 teachings, there are 7 other teachings inside those teachings and 7 other teachings inside those teachings. So you never stop learning. Always be aware that you have so much to learn. We are just the humble, small part of this life, and we need to walk in that way with respect. Che miigwech for listening. Oh.
So thank you so much, Elf, for joining us and the welcome. So welcome to the BCIT FSA Diversity Circles. So today we're looking at learning differences in neurodiversity with special guests on panel at the tables behind us and also with an interactive workshop. So my name is Derek Gamal Joseph. I am an advisor with Aboriginal Services. I'm also a director at large for the Faculty and Staff Association. We're looking today at diversity, right? So what does this represent? So Shannon Kelly and I asked actually the FSA or the faculty board, and we have Paul Rainiers and Teresa Place here, so the executive director and the president of FSA. And we asked, what are other post-secondaries around the province, around Canada, doing for equity and diversity? Equity, of course, was what did come up, and how are other post-secondary institutions looking at marginalized groups such as Aboriginal peoples, women, visible racialized minorities, persons with disabilities, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, and two-spirited persons. This is a big question overall, right? So we're looking at how can we approach this in a proactive way. From a faculty level, looking at BCIT as such a great community and partnerships that are within our institution. I see many of them here today, so thank you very much for coming. Myself, as an Indigenous person, I fit into one of these categories. So I have my own story, which can then link into how I have been looked at, or how I've been treated, or how I've interacted with a post-secondary institution during my K-12 or BA or MA studies. I can interact, and I've experienced that. So I then bring that on to the BCIT students that were in the classrooms with us here today, or in different classrooms at BCIT. So introducing the Diversity Circles project, you'll see here from this great slide is that we've actually looked at and reached out to a Coast Salish artist, so Aaron Nelson Moody, to mark or to look at our logo and adjust it a bit to the Coast Salish territory. It's represented by the circles. So you'll see the Coast Salish eyes and the 4 eyes that you'll see on the logo, and those represent vision. So we first look at the representation of the Coast Salish nations for vision within our logo. We've since looked a little bit further into concentric circles, and that's actually our guiding framework, which we've built into the project, and we'll speak about a little bit over the time that we have running the project. So I won't take up too long, but just to say that the focus for the next year, ongoing year, will be these 3 target diversity circles. So gender equity is one, as I mentioned, with a focus on women and underrepresented programs at BCIT. Indigenous peoples, and learning differences and neurodiversity, which we're all here for today. So I'll intro the panel now, and I think I'll be starting with Cheryl. So Cheryl Sokol from the Disability Resource Center, and she'll be presenting next.
Oh, can you get it so it doesn't show all the notes? There we go. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? No. All right. Did you shut this off, Derek? How's that? Better? Nope. Just a sec. I'm going to move it. Because voice amplification is very important for learning differences, actually. So thank you for having it. Here, I'll stand up straight. Is that better? Bit better? Oh, no, I can't. I can't do 2 things at once. Thank you, though. That's better. I like that. Thanks. All right. So as Derek said, I'm Cheryl Sokol. I'm from the Disability Resource Center, and I am one of the VOC rehab specialists. There are 4 of us there, and I'm also the coordinator of the department. And we have all come together to put a presentation together for you today that we are calling Addressing Different Learning Needs with Assistive Technology. Today, what we're going to cover is types of different learning differences, assistive technology, and finally, read and write, which we're really excited about, and hopefully when you learn about it, you will be too. So, types of learning differences. It's important to note that not all learning differences are formally diagnosed or assessed. Many students may not meet the criteria for a formal diagnosis, such as mental health conditions or a learning disability. However, they may still have different learning styles that can be addressed with assistive technology. There are also many students in the classroom without a formal diagnosis who may have developed specific learning strategies that enabled them to succeed in school without ever being identified. These students would also benefit from access to assistive technology. Providing such access is one way to apply the principles of universal design in practice. And we'll be hearing more about universal design later on today. The DRC opened an assistive technology lab to its students in 2012. We currently offer our students access to Inspiration, voice-to-text, text-to-voice, JAWS, Zoom text, and ergonomic equipment, some of which you can come check out at our table when we do our breakout. To talk about Inspiration, it is a mind mapping software. It's a visual thinking tool that allows students to visualize concepts, ideas, and relationships. Inspiration assists students with planning and organizing projects and to gain a better understanding of difficult concepts. In this way, it can also improve their writing proficiency. Voice-to-text technology. The popular one is Dragon Naturally Speaking, which we have in the department. It's a voice recognition software that assists students who experience difficulty getting thoughts on paper or students who can't physically access the keyboard or may have difficulty writing. Text to voice. This technology provides oral translation of written materials and benefits all students. For students registered with the DRC who have reading challenges, such as comprehension, reading speed, or reading fluency, this software is particularly helpful. It also helps students who have difficulty sustaining attention. For example, students with ADHD or mental health conditions such as anxiety or depression. They find it helpful to both see and hear their textbooks. The highlighting text in the color feature increases focus attention, and we'll be seeing that a bit later as well. JAWS. JAWS allows a student who is blind to navigate a computer without a mouse, and it provides an auditory representation of everything that is happening on the screen. And Zoom Text is a screen magnifier. In other words, the software will magnify everything that's on the screen. It is used by students with visual impairments, and it has some text-to-voice functionality as well. So, read and write. The DRC is pleased to announce that we have purchased a site license for the BCIT community. The initial phase of the project has begun, with Read and Write being installed via access in all the computers in the APOD in the library. This just happened a few weeks ago. So the next steps involving creating access to Read and Write will be in all the computer labs and developing a communication plan to keep the community apprised of the rollout and encouraging staff and faculty to personally explore the software, which will be downloadable for both staff and students to their personal computers, whether it be Mac or PC, smartphones, and tablets. Eventually, we would like to see all the campus labs have access to this technology, although the initial phase will just be on the Burnaby campus. So who benefits from Read and Write? Instruction in the DRC, we often hear feedback from instructors who are somewhat frustrated at times with students who don't seem to have the reading and writing skills at the grade 11 and 12 level. This can make it difficult for the students to get the maximum benefit from the curriculum, and it often translates to withdrawal from classes even after the first 3 weeks. And we know that's an issue at times that we'd like to prevent. Students who struggle with the volume of reading by using Read and Write could switch to listening once they become cognitively fatigued. For example, people who are easily distracted, have difficulty with reading, or are just generally fatigued when studying would benefit from the ability to listen to the material. In this way, the technology can enhance a student's optimal level of performance, which could lead to increased retention. This is good both for the student and for BCIT. From a cognitive perspective, a person can only maintain an optimal level of performance in one modality for a limited period of time. For example, even someone who is considered a good reader can only optimally process information through reading for a limited period. However, if they switch to an auditory format after a period of time, it will extend their ability to process information. Faculty will have access to the benefits of the assistive technology personally, as well as providing it as a resource to help their students. This could be done by advising the students of its existence on campus, and we will be looking to you for help with this as we roll out the program. In the following slides, as you learn more about Read and Write, ask yourself if you think this technology has the potential to make a difference for our international students or our students who have English as an additional language. Read and Write supports universal design, which means basically it helps everybody. Read and Write is a text-to-voice software that translates written material to an oral format. Essentially, it is a floating toolbar that allows the user to access written information from their computer, internet, in an oral format. Research shows that the Read and Write improves comprehension by 20%. So some of the different tasks that it does are listed on the screen: text-to-speech, speech-to-text, word prediction, audiobooks, talking dictionary, vocab list, picture dictionary, study skills. It's really a cool product, and we even haven't had the full time to fully explore it yet in the DRC because we just got it as well. So looking ahead, some of the things that will be happening, we will be adding Read and Write to the standard BCIT lab image, or I should say the ITS department. They're wonderful. They'll be adding it. We'll be looking at rolling out the take-home version of the product and looking to how it can be used to increase universal instructional design. We're also looking at the eText initiative that's happening on campus and seeing how we can perhaps work together to make that even better. And we're looking for a full deployment in the fall or winter on the Burnaby campus. and then we'll be exploring expanding the licenses to other campuses as well. So I'm going to just show a short video which demonstrates one of the study skills features.
There is a choice of 4 different highlighters: yellow, blue, green, and pink. To highlight a piece of text, select the text and then click on the color you wish to use. For example, to highlight in yellow, select the text and click on the yellow, or blue, green, or pink. If you make a mistake and select something you don't want, you can use the Clear Highlights tool. You can collect all the information you have gathered by clicking on the Collect Highlights icon. Here, you can choose which colors you want to collect. You can select in what order the collected highlights are displayed. You can set how the highlighted text is separated. If you wish to collect highlights from multiple documents, have this switched on. And you can choose to include the bibliography and its format here. When you click on OK, the requested highlighted text will be placed into a separate Word document.
Great. Is this going to pop over to that? It is, isn't it?
The toolbar. When you start
Thank you.
read and write,
One more time. It's good to have. Universal design often encourages repetition as a way to learn. So we're practicing that today. Great. So in summary, that was just a short demo of the study skills feature. And I think a lot of people look at that software and see it more as a reading software, but it really has a lot of cool study applications. It has a lot of cool applications for international students. It has a translating function. I think I'm really proud that we're bringing this to the school, and I think it will make a big difference for all of us. And I'm hoping that from this application of hearing about it today, and as we roll out more, we can share it with our other colleagues who couldn't be here today, and hopefully make this a really good tool that can make a difference for all our students here. So in recap, assistive technology supports students as well as the faculty and staff, and it also supports universal instructional design. I think that's basically it. And I just thank you for having us here today. And you know, we appreciate working with everyone on campus. In the department, we do work with everybody on campus. We're quite honored to work with the excellent instructors we have on campus and the faculty in their role of supporting their students who have limitations related to a disability condition. And we're really proud that we're bringing this to the whole campus. It's not just for the students with disability that are registered, it's for the benefit of everybody, and it's quite inclusive. And I think we're probably going to keep going, but we're going to be at the table, and I encourage you to come over and check out what we have and ask any questions. And we're excited. We're learning about it at the same time too, so we'll be learning about it right alongside all of you as well. So thanks very much. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. So just a reminder that we do have sheets and tables for thoughts and reflections on the table, and also notepads on the table to use and take if you like. We got some really fancy ones in the middle there, diversity circles. Yay. So next up, I'm going to introduce Mark Overgaard, and Tim. And they are going to talk about, they're both, from the instructing department, or BCIT piping department. They're introducing the mathematics delivery model for the trades with a specific focus on inclusive design principles and the UID, so Universal Instructional Design. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me out there? As Derek said, my name is Mark Overgaard. I'm with the piping department. This is my colleague, Tim Carson, also with the piping department. And I'd say about a little over a year ago, we were asked to be part of a pilot program, Universal Instructional Design. And they came to the piping department and they said, would we be interested? And we said, definitely. And we had to sit down and first of all figure out what Universal Instructional Design is, what it means to the piping department, and what it means, what we need to do, how do we present this. So we had a meeting, we went over what we teach in the piping department, and we took a look at our foundation program, which is about 26 weeks long, and we decided to take 1 week of it, the soldering copper pipe, and we decided to create material in that week that helped our students. And then we said, well, what do we mean by our students? Who are we helping? What students? Are we talking about the students at the top? Are we talking about the students at the bottom? Are we talking about them in the middle? Are we talking about the average? And Universal Instructional Design, UID, is about helping all students, all the learners. It doesn't matter what skill level you bring in or anything like that. So we took this soldering week, myself, Peter Fenrich, who's sitting at the back, and Shirley Coomer from the DRC, and started to create this material. And we said, we'll take a look at what we have and then see what we can do. So we started with the PowerPoint, the soldering PowerPoint. We didn't do too much about what's in the practical component. We looked at what's in the classroom, okay? What we can do in the classroom. We had about 4 hours, 6 hours to go through the material, and we created this soldering PowerPoint. And in the soldering PowerPoint, we put a number of videos on soldering. And the soldering PowerPoint itself is created with the learners in mind. It's hard to explain, but it's like everybody has to look at this thing. You have to be drawn into the PowerPoint. You have to be drawn into the videos. It doesn't leave anybody behind, but at the same time, it doesn't bore anybody either. And the layout and the patterns and all that kind of stuff was created by myself and Peter Fenrich from the LTC. And you get students start going through this. We actually did a survey too, what students thought before with the old curriculum, what students thought now with the new curriculum, and they loved it. I'm on all the videos. You don't actually see my face, you just hear my voice. And students nowadays, it's been about a year since we rolled this out, I get students all the time come up and say how much they love it. And I actually don't want to watch the PowerPoint anymore. I'm getting tired of hearing my own voice. But I asked them, why do you like it? What's the deal? And they love it because they get to see it. They see the whole PowerPoint, they see the whole soldering done in one shot. And then we split the videos up into the different parts. So by the time they get into the shop, they're all over it already. They know what they're doing. So when the instructor's going through, sometimes it's hard for all the students to see the instructor. They already have an idea. And we translated that into, let's let them know what they're doing before we get there. Let's let them know what the projects are. Let's let them mark their own projects, but not theirs for the previous class. So they have all these different methods to learn. And it worked really well. The survey was great. The students are loving it. It was a success. So we were then asked to do another part, and we decided to do math. And lo and behold, it seems like a trigger word for the whole campus these days, getting people to learn math. Didn't know that 6 months ago when we thought about this. So we started on that project, which we've been doing for 4 months. That was a bigger project than soldering, and we brought Tim Carson, my colleague, in to help us out with that. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit about the math and what we're doing. All right?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, come and talk to me about the fact that students come and say, aren't you the guy on the video? Oh, no, it's him over there. And they go scurrying down the hallway trying to look for signatures. But it's been real fun for all of us to sit back and watch Mark do his videos. My name's Tim, and it's a pleasure to be here and to represent not only the piping department, but the School of Construction and what you guys are doing here today. So thank you for inviting us. As Mark said, I'm new to the project, and it's been an amazing journey so far, and I can't wait to see what happens 4 months down the road from today even. I just want to ask you to do one thing with me, if you wouldn't mind. If you wouldn't mind just closing your eyes for a second. We don't get to do this much in the piping department because when we tell people to close their eyes, they really don't. But just close your eyes for a second. Now, I want you to think about a subject matter that you took in school that you absolutely dreaded. That when you saw it on your schedule, the panic set in. It didn't matter who the teacher was. The subject matter alone made you want to run home. Has everybody got that? Just give me a little nod when you find it. Perfect. Now imagine that you're going into a field of study and you're excited about going into that field of study and you've heard all this stuff about it and you've signed up and you're ready to go in and you get in and you find out that 70 to 80% of that field of study contains the material you're the most dreaded with. Go ahead and open your eyes. Thank you for participating. There was a study done a while ago, and I can't remember the exact name of the study and the people who did it. It just stuck into my mind when I did read it. They followed 4 trades: plumbing, steam fitting, gas fitting, and carpentry. And they were setting out to find out just how much math and science was involved in the trades, because I don't know about you, but in high school, we were told if you're not very good at math and science, well, you can always go into the trades. And then you get a room full of students who've been told that, and you show them the math and the science, and they feel exactly like you were reaching way back into your memory banks. Well, after the study, they determined that 70 to 80% of everything that I do as a tradesperson in my trade every day has something to do with math and science. So if you are deathly afraid of those 2 subjects, you've now just signed up for 4 years of that. And the interesting thing that Mark and I found out is people who struggle with math and science are generally intellectual people. They can function very well in the rest of society. But you ask them to do simple math and science, formulas and equations, and they freeze up. They tighten up. They get anxiety. They can't do it. So when we were approached to do this project with math and science, we jumped on it right away, not knowing how big of an animal this really was. And now we know, and it's awesome. So the method that we're going to be showing you at the back table there is more about a new delivery method for math and science than a textbook. The world probably doesn't need any more textbooks, but we need a different delivery method, because as you've already heard, there are multiple styles of learning, many different pathways, if I can borrow a phrase from Peter, many different pathways into the brain. And what we're doing is just one facet of that. So it's a new delivery system. It's also UID compliant. So we're looking at having it applicable to all learners in our classroom. Because quite frankly, we have everybody in our classroom who are mechanical engineer types down to people who dreaded math and science. And so it's for everybody. And the awesome thing about this is that it's not just a book that we're going to hand to people and something that we're going to teach in class, but it's also going to be online for them through the Desire to Learn platform. There'll be videos, there'll be PowerPoints, there'll be extra handouts and quizzes. And so it's not just a new package, and it's not just a new delivery system, but it's a whole philosophy of delivering math and science in our trades program, which I don't think has ever been thought of before. So it's an honor and a privilege for us to be here. Thank you for inviting us, and we can't wait to share what we found with all of you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Tim. That was great. So next up, we have Melanie, and I apologize. I've really mispronounced that name a few times. So Melanie is the Senior Human Resource Manager. Turn that one back on. So Melanie is the Senior Human Resource Partner with SAP Employer Perspective. So SAP's innovative recruiting and hiring program, Autism at Work, to leverage an untapped talent resource and support the Global Diversity Initiative. So if you can come up and...
Awesome. So can everyone hear me? Perfect. So how many of you here have heard of SAP? Does anyone here want to share with me what is SAP? Sure, sure. So yeah, that's a great attempt. So usually when I ask people if they've heard of SAP, most people would raise their hands. But if I ask you what is SAP, it's hard to kind of come up with the defining definition of it. So just to give you some perspective on SAP, we are a global company with over 300,000 customers. We are in 120 different locations around the world, and we have close to 80,000 employees worldwide. So what do? We are an ERP and cloud software company, and in Vancouver alone, we're located in Yaletown, we have close to 1,200 people. So quite a large presence here in Vancouver. My role with SAP is I work as an HR business partner, and just so I pronounce my name correctly, so you all know it's Malini, and I work as an HR business partner, but part of that role, I have the great privilege of leading the Autism at Work program that we have. So I'll be able to share more of that with you. So how did this program come about and what exactly is it? So in 2013, as a global company, we made a commitment to hire 1% of our workforce with individuals on the autism spectrum. Why 1%, you may ask? It was because we wanted to reflect the percentage of people with autism in society. So that was our global commitment there. And the idea actually started off in India. We had our managing director of our India office, and he had a son on the autism spectrum, and he thought, you know what, we are in the high-tech industry. Individuals on the autism spectrum bring in so many unique skill sets that are suited for technical roles. Why can't we access this untapped market? So it was that one idea that instigated this whole change, and now we're close to almost 100 people globally that we've hired. So with this as well, the other thing is we also chose to partner with a Danish organization called Specialisterna, and they've been a great supporter and partner for us to really evolutionize the way we recruit and hire people. So, why hire people with autism? There are multiple reasons, and I don't want to come here and talk to you about the business case for diversity because we all know that. But one thing in the high-tech industry that I think stands out is the fact that we have one of the highest turnover rates in this industry, and the fact that in the next 3 years, it is predicted that we will have a talent shortage. So we will have 180,000 IT roles to fill in Canada itself. We definitely have a talent gap, and if we don't act today, it's going to be too late. So therefore, we really had to rethink our talent strategy and think about the underutilized markets that we needed to tap into. And so I know that earlier on today you heard about the 4 different pools that you were or the 3 different eyes that you were looking at, and this one fits under neurodiversity for us. So where are we with the program today? We are in 7 countries. We have over 100 people hired. And what we're doing, we actually started this in 2013. So the folks in Vancouver have been with us for about 2 years, some of them. And so we know that the pilot model is a success, and we're trying to grow this and really look at sustainable practices. So how do we look at our internal processes and what changes can we make in the future? What we're also doing, a great thing, is we've expanded more towards Asia as well. So if you look at the APJ region, you can see in the different color yellow there that we're looking to introduce the program in Sydney and Canberra in Australia, as well as in Seoul in Korea, our office there. And another thing I want to highlight is, when we think about individuals on the autism spectrum, typically you think about technical roles. You think about attention to detail, memory and intelligence, pattern recognition. But we found with the program as well that you can actually expand this beyond technical roles. So a couple of different examples I'll give you is in our Newtown Square office, we actually hired somebody in HR, an HR service associate, who's on the spectrum. And that was probably one of the most non-traditional roles that you can think about. So it is expanding. It's not suited for every single role, but we really need to go beyond that boxed approach of what their skill set might be suited for. So here I think, this is probably maybe the most interesting to you is what does this mean for us and why is this working? It's because we've made a shift in the way we recruit and we onboard people. If you think of the typical interview process for big employers such as SAP, typically it'll be a phone interview, you'll talk to a recruiter, and then you'll come in for a face-to-face interview with a hiring manager where you'll be asked questions in a one-on-one setting, and then perhaps another virtual interview because we are a global company, so we're looking at how you interact with others and use technology. But in this model, what we've done is we've actually invited people into a recruitment workshop. They're coming in to the workshop, they're given Lego, they have to build a robot. It's a very hands-on approach. You're not sitting there with the hiring manager, you come in as your whole self, authentic self, and you're demonstrating your skill set by doing something that's tactile, that's relevant to the job, as opposed to us measuring your social skills and your communication skills, because we know those who are on the spectrum may feel challenged by that. So this is a tweak, I think one of the biggest pieces of success here. And what we do is we then look for indicators of how they interact with others, how do they learn, how are they, once you build a robot, how are they programming the robot, how are they doing tasks, how are they solving challenges, and we come up with a holistic profile. So it's recruiting based on that. The other key piece, I think that's a model for success here, is then a pre-employment training program. So once we've shortlisted candidates after the recruiting workshop, we put them through a 4-week-long training program where it's learning about what is a corporate environment like, what is it like to work for SAP, what is basic email etiquette, things that we may take for granted because we're used to working in a corporate environment, or even at BCIT you might take for granted, but it's very new for some people. So we put them through that. And all along, I think a key secret sauce in my mind is a job coach. So we've made sure that there is support, and using a job coach has been key because the job coach bridges that gap between your personal life and your professional life. So I'm there as an HR business partner, but oftentimes life happens. Life happens a year down the road, 3 months down the road after you've come into work. And if you have the support of your job coach, then you're able to deal with anxiety in a different way. So I think that's probably, I would say, a secret sauce. And of course, we do our part at educating the rest of employees and the host teams and managers to ensure there's a solid support circle there. So that's the process in a nutshell. It's quite a lengthy process, but I'm happy to share more as well. I will be here after. So one thing that I want to leave you all with, just as a thought, is, companies like SAP have started this, I think, but it's not about SAP. It's about the movement. It's about influencing other community partners. And I think the moment that brought me most joy last year is when I heard that Ernst & Young was launching their own Autism at Work program. CIBC was doing the same. And there are a few others that have started now in Canada. So the dream or the wish would be, it seems like it's extraordinary right now, but what can we do to make it ordinary in the future? So I'll leave you with that thought. Thanks so much, and I'll be around if you have questions after.
So now we'll call up Shannon Kelly. So she's the program head with the communication department and the co-founder of the Diversity Circles. Is this on? Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Darren. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's a real honor to be here. So I'm going to talk, it's a great follow-up to Melanie, and I thought Melanie's presentation was so exciting, and the presentations of both of the other speakers before, it's just really, really great to be here. I'm going to talk briefly about a pilot that I did, that I structured along with one of my co-researchers, which was to change the way I delivered group work in my labs here, in my communication course labs here at BCIT. So I want to acknowledge my research partner, Yiran Kim. I actually wanted Yiran to make this presentation, but she's presenting this version of this paper, a longer version of this paper, at the Applied Behavior Analysis International Conference in Chicago today. So you're stuck with me instead. What Yiran brings to the table is a vast knowledge of autism and special education. She's simultaneously doing her doctoral degree at SFU and studying for her board certifications in applied behavior analysis and graduate school at UBC. So she's very busy and she's a great resource. What I humbly bring to the project is over a decade of looking at diversity in post-secondary education. So I actually had an action research grant from the LTC back in 2005, which was looking at gender and technology. And from there, I've sort of always reached out through LTC funding, such as instructional enhancement grants. I've had several professional development leaves, so I've been supported in my research here at BCIT, which is great, and always looking at different facets of diversity. So gender, as I mentioned, culture, people with varying abilities, etc. And Yiran and I have published several conference papers on this topic, so that's been a great partnership. I also have a personal connection. My son has autism. He's 9 years old, and so I always look at the post-secondary landscape with that in mind as well. From all the reading that I did as a parent of a child with autism, obviously I don't have Yiran's knowledge, but I do have a good layperson's knowledge of autism. And I found myself subtly changing the way I did things in the classroom. Just subtle tweaks to how information was presented, how I framed things in my labs, how I set things up, how I front-loaded things, gave students information ahead of time, just little tweaks that really extended from my knowledge of autism. And I often thought, how can I share this with my fellow faculty and my fellow staff and faculty here at BCIT? And that's really what this Diversity Circles project is about. It's about peer-to-peer connecting, not just coming to workshops like this, which are of course really exciting, but after the workshop, how do we stay in touch? How do we network? So that's really our goal, is to stay connected. We're going to create a digital network, a mentoring network that will follow up from these various workshops, so that on a peer-to-peer level, faculty, staff, employers, practitioners, we can keep the knowledge circles going. So that's really exciting for me. So many of you probably know this information. I'll go over it quite quickly. As Melanie alluded to, autism is sitting at about 1% of the population, but one thing to note about people on the autism spectrum is that obviously there hasn't been a dramatic rise in the number of people diagnosed with autism. And from that, we're going to see a very large population of students on the spectrum coming into the post-secondary environment. So that's a really important movement, along with other types of learning differences, of course, that we want to acknowledge. And of course, researchers also point out that the post-secondary system is not really equipped to deal with the type and the increasing diversity that we're seeing. So that's why hopefully, if we connect as peers, we can help to bridge that gap of resources. So my question today is, how can we help educators support students with learning differences and students on the ASD on the spectrum specifically in what we do in the classroom? So here's a story. I had a student in my communication class a few years ago. He was self-identified as being on the autism spectrum. I did my little tweaks in how I framed things, how I delivered things. The class was going very well. He's a very smart kid, doing great. He was allowed to have a laptop with him at all times. That was part of his accommodation, which is very common. Technology is very important, a very helpful tool. And he always used the laptop appropriately, always. Except every time I said, it is now time to do some kind of group work, he would immediately start playing Minecraft. I mean, every time. As soon as I said, okay, we're going to break into pairs, and we're gonna, immediately the Minecraft came on. And after this happened a few times, I realized that it was a coping mechanism. And I certainly recognize that from other students and my son and other information that I've read. Every time Minecraft came on, when I said there was group work coming. So I thought, what is so terrifying or stressful about group work for the student who's in a pretty comfortable learning environment, assisted, supported, friendly peers, friendly instructor? So I asked Yiren, I said, Yiren, what is it about group work? And that was the genesis of this pilot. So there are several things that could be challenging for some of our students on the autism spectrum and for other students. Group work is also really intimidating for students with anxiety, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But things like the fact that we often ask really open questions as instructors. Sometimes we present pretty loosely defined steps rather than really structured, task-oriented instructions. But I think the scariest part is probably the social element of that group work, the actual social element. So the scariest thing is probably when students are asked to self-select their own teams. Okay, make a team of 3. I mean, that's terrifying for me, let alone many of our students with different learning styles and learning differences. Also, if you've ever watched your students working as a team, there's all kinds of subtle social information being passed around, like who's going to be the dominant team member and who's going to look after the details and who's going to be the comedian in the group. There's this crazy stuff happening in these groups. So that's really intimidating. Now, we can't fix and address absolutely everything, but there are some simple changes that instructors can make to how information is framed and presented. I'm going to go through these quickly, but I do have a handout, and of course I'm always available and happy to talk about these topics. So self-selecting, obviously many instructors already do this. This is not rocket science. Many instructors already pre-select teams, randomly select teams, pretend that the teams are randomly selected, but really they're not randomly selected. We deliberately mix the teams up. Okay, no problem. The other thing is we tend to sometimes give students a pile of work and say, okay, divide amongst yourselves. And that can be, students with autism don't necessarily, they can't quickly decide what they want to do, and they can't quickly decide what would be easy to do or what would be best for their skill set. So I suggest making task-oriented lists, and you say to the students, everyone has to pick, a task from column A, a task from column B, a task from column C. So one task might be research, another task might be writing, another task might be working on the PowerPoint for this presentation. The other thing that I realized I was doing was I would tend to give my students a big task in a big time frame and say, okay, Clunk, here's the thing, you've got 30 minutes, I'm going to get coffee. No, that's not true. I would always stay and facilitate, but it was still really intimidating. So again, some instructors are already doing this, right? It's just a matter of conscientiously applying what we're doing across the board. So break it up into discrete tasks. Definitely say we're going to do task 1 for 10 minutes, then task 1 is done. We're going to do task 2, et cetera, et cetera. And that also applies when we ask students to discuss amongst themselves. Okay, discuss amongst yourselves. That's another really scary social situation for me, let alone my students. So break any sort of peer review or sharing down into really specific instructions. We're going to do this, we're going to use this checklist, we're going to use these criteria. And that way, as many people have said today, it helps all students. It's good instructional design, it's good pedagogy, but certainly it does help students with learning differences. The other thing I just want to mention quickly is that obviously some of this can be done formally in the project design, and other parts, of course, come down to the instructor facilitating. And I know many instructors, just like many staff on the front lines of student services, in the moment, so great at helping people, so great at reading situations. So you don't have to absolutely figure out everything. You can, of course, facilitate on the fly. Visuals are a huge thing. That's part of universal instructional design, as you've heard and you will hear more about in our workshop. But certainly with students on the spectrum, make things visual. Checklists are great. Visuals are great, as in icons, visual information. Be able to check things off as you go through them so that the student and all students can see that the progress that they're making and how they are almost to the end of the task. Processing time, I believe the gentleman from piping mentioned this, hand stuff out ahead of time. And again, I was the worst for this. I would always, just plunk, okay, we're doing this, get on it right now. Students who are on the spectrum really need more time to process things, to think about them, and to see the shape of what they're going to be asked to do. So again, I have this on a handout. I'm not going to take any more time, but I really am honored by the chance to share these tips with you, and I want to keep the sharing going. So thanks again, everyone, for coming.
The room over here. I got my iPad in hand because we do have some online questions, so I want to make sure that I get to at least one before we head into the networking session. So it's from Carolyn Sams, and the question, and I put Cheryl on the spot. I kind of give her a brief heads up there, but so from Carolyn Sams, how would we know in the online teaching environment which students need additional resources for learning, or do we just let them all know?
Good question. I would say that if as an instructor you've received an individual accommodation plan from the Disability Resource Center, then you would already know. But given that question, I'm assuming that that wouldn't have been the case. And I think what happens sort of organically with instructors is, as Shannon was saying in her presentation, you kind of figure that something there might be an issue with someone. They might do really well in class. They clearly know the material, but when they get to the exams, their knowledge just does not show, and it just does not make sense. So in those cases, there might be students that are needing some extra help. What I would recommend is twofold. Would be to refer them to the Disability Resource Center. That's the one, and before the one would be the recommendation that all instructors include in their teaching material at the beginning of the course a sample class announcement letting them know that in fact we do have a Disability Resource Center and that all students may have different learning differences and they're encouraged to come see the DRC. And by instructors saying that kind of announcement at the beginning of class, in class, physically to the students, it can help the students feel that it's safe to come forward and come to the DRC, because I can tell you that many students do not feel safe to come see us. They don't, and that's changing. There is a stigma. There's a lot of, I could talk a lot on that, but I'll just try to answer the question. So really the important thing I think is to encourage all the instructors and staff and faculty to know that we have a Disability Resource Center and to include a sample class announcement at the beginning of the term, put it on the outline. And once you've done that, if something comes up, 3 or 4 weeks later when things get going in the class, and maybe the students don't remember that announcement or they're not looking at their outline, the instructor has a way to gently remind the student that they made some announcements at the beginning of the term about the different resources available, such as the Disability Resource Center, and we always encourage them to include our counseling partners who happen to be at the table, and the gym for stress management. And it just makes it very inclusive and, oh yeah, it's all good. And the instructor doesn't have to get into the nitty-gritty of the issue of the learning. They can just refer the student to us. And if the student is an online student and is located in Saskatchewan, that's not a problem. We can do on the phone intakes, and we're quite comfortable and set up to do that. So I think that's it. I hope that answered the question.
Is this on? Yeah. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kyla, and I work with the Faculty and Staff Association. And it is my great pleasure to be supporting Derek and Shannon on this project. And right now I get to do some logistics with this, which is the other great pleasure in my life with you. So a few things. If you haven't signed in, please do. This will help us build the network, as Shannon and Derek had mentioned, for future events. If you don't have a name tag on, please come over and make one. It will help when we break for you to start conversations with each other. The other thing is that you should please eat the food, because we don't want it to go to waste or take it back afterwards. And as those of you know who've come to events before, I always have food at events, so you always need to eat it. There's also chocolate over here. The other thing you might want to take some time to do is up on the wall there are some green and orange sheets. They reflect the comments that those of you who provided them when you registered, talking about why this event attracted you or what you were hoping to get out of it. All of the comments have then been transferred to these sheets that are on the posts and the walls, so maybe take some time and see what your colleagues said. As mentioned on the tables, there are these feedback sheets. They're both for you to capture your reflections and also to provide us with some information. This is in lieu of having to fill out a survey, so you may want to take the opportunity and just leave the sheet there for us. And please, the notepads are for you to use, partly so that you can use them, partly so I don't have to take them back with me as well. So in terms of what's happening next, in about a moment, we're going to break, and you're going to get a chance to ask some of the questions that may have come up during the panel speakers, or might just be circulating in your mind, to the people who spoke. But we also have other people who are here as well. And if you sort of look back there, there are a variety of tables set up. I'm going to go through the list in a second. After that, after the break and the networking time, we're going to come back together, and Peter Fenrich, who was mentioned during the piping presentation, is going to lead us through a workshop on universal design. And speaking of providing materials for that, if you didn't pick up a copy of the presentation, they are here on the table for you. So just before we let you go, the people who you are, obviously you should talk to each other as well, but the people who are set up to talk to you, we have a couple of people, Alana and Christy from counseling, who can talk to you about how they can make personal connections with on-site counseling to support students, and as well as provide referral services. And then we have Peter himself, Peter's everywhere today, from the Learning and Teaching Center to talk about the resources they can provide around instructional design and putting materials online. And as well with, I think, the winner for the greatest display at the back there is Brian from D2L, who can talk to you about how to use that tool for this kind of learning environment as well. Mark and Tim will be here from Piping to talk to you about the amazing programs they've been working on. And then we have, where's Andrea Matthews? Andrea's got the flowers, in case you... Oh, sorry, Kathy has the flowers. Sorry. Andrea has a screen, also as interesting as flowers for some people. Andrea's got a bunch of things she can talk to you about. She's from Peld and also supports the ISEP program, and also an initiative, an instructor-to-instructor initiative about supporting students who have English as an additional language. Kathy, who has the flowers, is here from the Learning Commons and can talk to you about their peer tutoring and study skills program and the emphasis they put on that around individualized learning and one-to-one support. And then, of course, we have our presenters from DRC as well, who can talk to you about all the amazing ways that they can support students who need that. And I think I got everybody. And then, of course, Shannon and Derek, you should definitely talk to them more about the Diversity Circles project, about what's coming up in the future for this project and how you can stay involved. So we'll let you break now. I have to look at my clock. We've got about 20 minutes to talk to each other, get some food, ask all the questions, and then we'll start the workshop. Thank you.